pleasure, pain, expansion, contraction, assistance, resistance, love, fear. If we consider that energy is constantly moving and everything in our universe is made of energy, then the universe is constantly in motion, and so are we. We are energy beings. We are made of energy. We are sustained by energy, and we are influenced by energy. In a universe such as ours, to be neutral or to be still is to be in resistance to movement, and resistance is fear. We may resist movement in any direction for fear of being wrong. This is a counteraction to our state of being. To remain fixed at the center point without movement in any direction is to contribute nothing to the expanding universe on a macro level and to ourselves on a micro level. As above, so below, so without, so within. These phrases are so often quoted in communities such as ours. As above, so below has its origins in the Hermetic texts from the Emerald Tablets of Hermes Trismegistus. The original saying is, that which is below corresponds to that which is above, and that which is above corresponds to that which is below, to accomplish the miracle of the one thing. If we see a function and a role in the universe, we can be sure to apply it to ourselves and find the truth of who we are, what we should do, and how we should do it. The universe is our guide. If we consider this to be true, then we are meant to expand and keep in motion. If we are at a neutral point and trying to hold a position of stillness, we can be sure that the universe will send things our way to get us moving. As mentioned in the previous video, if love is the universal force that promotes expansion, then the opposite force, which is fear, promotes contraction. This can easily be used to measure all actions and their benefit on a soul level. We are fortunate to have already embedded within us this system for determining effective actions. We are born with an innate sense of movement toward pleasure and away from pain. We certainly know that the force of love is very pleasurable. It is also very powerful. We would dare say that we are at our most powerful when we are moving within and surrounded by this force. So it can also be said that we are equally just as powerful when we are moving within and surrounded by the force of fear. Both are just forces that, when applied to energy, affect our rate of vibration, our movement. In which direction we move is up to us. We have free will of choice. People throughout time have been known to do remarkable things using the force of love, and the same can be said for fear. The closer we get to either end of these two vibrating frequencies, the more powerful we are. In other words, the more force we are able to put with our intentions. This force is how we create our reality, both collectively and individually. Standing still equals no creation. It is not hard to look at the world around us and see how we are being manipulated to create using the force of fear. We are constantly being bombarded with the persuasion to be afraid of everything. The more we are afraid, the stronger this force becomes behind our intentions, and the more likely we are to create the very thing we are afraid of. It's of no consequence for the universe. Creation from fear or creation from love are both acts of creation and thus movement. The only difference being that one expands and one contracts. The AIF would have us create a contracting reality in which our perception, our abilities, and our awareness shrink down to limited potential, and therefore we are more easily manipulated. Can you see how having relationships with people who seek to make us afraid does the same thing? As above, so below? Narcs are notorious for controlling people around them with fear. An overt narc will use blatant fear tactics to manipulate and keep people in a force of fear, so that they are less likely to rebel and see the narc for what he or she is. A covert narc might not make you afraid of them, but rather afraid of your environment in an effort to have you cling to them more tightly. Either way, consciousness is contracted to the point that the larger agenda is not seen. When we expand our awareness or perception, we get a wider and more expanded view of not only relationships, but the entire human collective soul group, and the manipulation becomes obvious. Fear is the force that is used to create the reality in which we live. Why fear and not love? Because these beings resonate at a very low frequency and are constantly seeking to keep us and our environment at the same low frequency that makes us a match to theirs and keep us within their reach. They depend on us for their survival. Don't forget. When you seek to raise your vibration, you are no longer within their reach. You begin to vibrate at a frequency to which they have no access. For more information on extremely low frequency, research ELF waves or ELF waves, HAARP, and Schumann resonance. Playing with and adjusting the frequency of this planet and the humans living on her seems to be something of great interest and constant study. As discussed in our video about dimensions, video 22, we asked you to consider that the fourth dimension is where the blueprint for our third dimension reality is formed. Every thought that was ever thought for our reality exists in the fifth, and they become more or less solid in the fourth, as we either give them the power to manifest through our focus or we forget them, and they are discarded, but still exist there. Let's look at this closely. We humans have so many thoughts. Thoughts are things, and thoughts have energy. They exist as potentials only in the fifth dimension. The thoughts we focus on with more intensity, become a little denser and begin to take shape in the fourth dimension. This is where the blueprint for our reality forms. As we focus with more intensity, these thoughts become manifest and finally appear here with us in the third dimension. In the universe beyond this limited 4% of all that exists, the Ka, thoughts are manifested more instantly. We have immediate access to all realms of frequencies, all dimensions at any time. Due to our containment, our amnesia, and our manipulated existence, it is more of a challenge to regain this ability while here. We can still do it, but it might take longer. If we don't want a certain outcome for a particular situation we are struggling with, but are constantly focused on, we are sure to manifest that outcome just by putting more focus and intention on that outcome than the one we desire. This is tricky, because to manifest what we want also needs to be accomplished in such a way that it isn't just a resistance, fear, to something we don't want. What does this look like? Let's say that we want a new car. We hate the car we have. We begin to try with much focus to manifest a new car for ourselves. However, because we only want a new car because of our resistance to the old car, we hate it. We have less chance of creating what we want because we are in a state of resistance. To change this, we want a new car and we accept that we have an old broken car. The old broken car is just fine. It gets us where we need to go. We offer no resistance to keeping the old car. To be in a state of acceptance to those things in our lives which we want to change sounds contradictory, but it's actually a change in perception. To look at this from the point of relationships might be similar to wanting someone in your life to share your experiences with, but we must hold those intentions with acceptance of being alone first, rather than wanting something or someone out of fear, resistance to being alone. When we have out-of-body experiences, we might see things that are frightening. Why? Is it because there are beings that exist in these higher vibrating realms waiting to hurt us? No. Remember, these are the realms of our thoughts. The AIF has been stripped of their ability to create. They do not reside in these realms of higher frequency. They can only create by using technology which exists at an even lower frequency of that in which we reside. Thus the push for the singularity, which will bring our realm down to match their level. If you see something that frightens you, you are just pulling in and attracting those thought forms which are vibrating according to your particular frequency at that moment. These are still your thoughts, your creations, and you will also come into contact with thought forms of other spheres. There are a lot of us existing in this reality, and there are a lot of thoughts floating around. Some of these thought forms may take the shape and appearance of beings with which we can interact. We are interacting with our own thought forms every time we engage with our inner critic. We are communicating with ourselves by thought forms that were implanted by the manipulators in our lives. What form might your inner critic take if you were to meet with it? What appearance might your shadows have when we confront them in a realm where thoughts take form? Thoughts are things, and they hold vibration and even form if we focus on them with greater or lesser intensity. In a recorded audio message from Tom Campbell, he gives the 3 most important points to achieve a successful out-of-body experience. Overcoming our fears is one of these. He states, and we agree with him, that the root cause of all perceived negative emotions is fear. Using the above example of resistance, we encourage you to not be in a resistance to fear. Accept your fears and view them from the perspective of soul fragments, drawing your attention to those things which need to be healed. When you apply the force of love to the force of fear, you turn contradiction into expansion. You change resistance to assistance.